think outside the box, if you will. I mean, go there, go off campus. Let's think this through. And sure enough, that's where the Mustang was born. When it finally hit, it took the country by storm.
Wow. Look at this place, Joe. This is amazing.
John.
Wow, we're here.
It is incredible.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Cars in Context. I'm your host, John Clor. You know, this is the Motor City, and this is the show where we put cars into the context of your everyday life. We're right here at the Ford Piquette Plant. Joe, if you look down there, I mean, there's still a few people around driving around, but this is the old Fisher Body plant. This whole area here on Piquette, right off of Woodward, it's got a lot of history.
Yeah, it's called Milwaukee Junction. It has a very rich history. EMF was here, Studebaker, and of course, Ford Motor Company.
Yeah, we're at the corner of Beaubien and Piquette today, and we're going to bring you this very special edition of Cars in Context, folks. This one, Joe, let's talk about this for a second. The fact that we're at the Ford Piquette plant, when we talk about automotive history, when you talk about the Motor City, this is where it all started.
This is where it began, 1904, John.
So Henry got his money, and from what I understand, he actually built this place.
He did. He was building cars on Mack Avenue from 1903, but quickly realized he needed more space.
Right.
He purchased about 3 acres here for $23,000. Spent another $73,000 putting up this 68,000 square foot building.
Wow, can you imagine $23,000? Purpose-built factory.
Yes.
He wanted to start this Model T going here, and this is where it was born. The very first of the Model Ts, folks, were born here.
That's right.
I know we've done shows about Highland Park. Maybe we can go visit that someday. But today we want to bring you a very special tour of the Piquette plant. And I think, Joe, the history of it's not just about Ford Motor Company, is it?
No, it's about the car for the common man. When Henry had an idea against the stockholders' will, he wanted to build a car for the masses. He designed that car here. He built the first 12,000 Model Ts here, and this is where it all began. This is it.
So we're going to go through, we're going to take you, our WMTV viewers, on a very special tour of this Piquette plant. So let's go inside and try to find some of the secrets of the very beginning of the auto industry here in Detroit. Joe, let's go.
Let's go. What a great place, John.
This is going to be an absolute blast. Welcome back to Cars in Context. I'm your host, John Clor. We're here with our friend Joe Babiasz, our favorite automotive historian. Joe's back on the show with us today because we're visiting a very special place. In fact, the most special place in Ford and really Detroit motoring history is the Piquette plant. And here today to take us through a special tour for you, the WMTV viewers, we have none other than Jerry Mitchell. Jerry, thanks for inviting us over today. Jerry is the president of this Piquette operation here at the plant. Jerry, tell us a little bit about this wonderful building and how you got involved in getting people back into it to sort of explore our history here.
Well, I'll try to make it brief because I acquired Henry Ford's house in 1985, and as a result of that, I became much more interested in his legacy and heritage. And then I became aware of the existence of this plant.
Right.
And I passed by frequently, and I discovered that the windows were falling out in the late 90s, and I could see that it was in danger of being lost.
Yeah.
So I approached the Henry Ford Heritage Association, which is a great group of people whose mission is to preserve the heritage of Henry Ford, keep his memory alive. And they were enthusiastic about saving the building. Their members raised $100,000. That allowed us to acquire the building in 2000.
Okay.
Then we formed a nonprofit corporation, the Model T Automotive Heritage Complex, which now manages the building.
Awesome.
And so in less than 10 years, we moved this from being an abandoned building, semi-derelict, to a National Historic Landmark, and we now attract visitors from around the world.
It's so we can't tell you how excited we are to be here, Jerry.
Yeah, it's special.
And this is a very special place, not only for anybody that loves cars. If you call yourself a Detroiter and you don't come down here, you're missing the core essence of what it means to be a Detroiter. In fact, what we're looking at, Jerry, really, this was the front corner of the building, and we're facing Piquette Avenue, or Piquette Street right here. Tell me what this space was originally used for. This is an actual photo of Mr. Ford's office?
Yes, it's a photograph taken in 1908, which was a crucial year in his career because it's the birthplace of it's the time of the Model T being developed. This is his office. Actually, Mr. Ford didn't spend a lot of time here.
Okay.
He was always much more interested in being on the floor with the men,
Sure.
improving engines and developing a new model car.
Wow.
But this is the office, recently reinterpreted based on this historic photograph.
Yeah, even the Ford Motor Company safe back there.
That's
So
right.
you're actually trying to recreate this very same photograph. So people come, this is actually like a window into what Mr. Ford was doing on the day that he's trying to build this Model T in this plant.
Exactly right.
It's a good place to start. Now I understand that the plant, we're on the second floor of the plant right now. For years after Ford had moved on and of course gone on to the Rouge for the manufacturing, this was kind of a commercial building. And they still have some commercial operations going here. But here on the second floor, you've actually got, is there something called the Piquette T's, the club actually?
Right.
Those guys, they actually own and drive the Model T's.
To some extent, yes. The Piquette T's are our in-house Model T club,
Is that cool?
and they're a chapter of the Model T Ford Club International.
Okay. So this is kind of like their home base.
Yes, it is.
How cool would it be to have a car club, have a Model T club, and have its home base in the Piquette plant? I mean, that's beyond cool. Well,
very
listen,
special.
Jerry, why don't you take us for a little stroll through this building and show
Okay.
us some of the great highlights. Come on, Joe, let's walk along. So we've just passed the office now here. Now look at, Joe was telling me earlier that this building actually had a water tank on top because Mr. Ford wanted to make sure that it had some fire suppression into the building. Is that true?
Yes.
He was way ahead of his, I mean, that's way ahead of time. I mean, that's technology that even today is not in every building, and Mr. Ford was thinking about protecting his investment even back then.
That's correct.
So these have sliding fire doors, little metal fire doors. So another safety feature that Henry wanted to protect his building?
Absolutely. This is a typical New England textile mill design.
Okay,
And textile mills were famous for fires.
that's right.
And so
yeah.
architects devised ways of designing them to help contain fire. So this building is divided into 4 rooms by these thick fire walls and the fire doors. And then we have an overhead sprinkler system.
Wow. Now, Joe, you were saying that just prior to the building of this factory, there was a fire in one of the Detroit factories?
Yeah, there was. In 1901, Oldsmobile, March of 01, R.E. Olds had a factory on Jefferson Avenue, and it burned to the ground. And I think that might have been part of the reason Henry wanted to make sure that his building didn't burn to the ground.
Protect
So
his
he saw
investment.
what happened to Oldsmobile and made sure that he had the fire protection.
Oh, really cool. The paint white, look at all the windows, Jerry. When you're working on a vehicle, you need light. Was it really common to have this many windows in a factory like this?
Well, again, that's the idea of the mill style.
Okay.
It's prior to the time of air conditioning, so it provided natural ventilation.
Okay, great.
And also prior to the time of electric lighting, or very good electric lighting.
Yeah.
And so therefore you relied on sunlight.
Well, what do we have here?
We need to start down here.
Oh, you want to start down here? Okay. Right behind you. Okay, Jerry. We're going to go to, folks, take a look at this. Oh, well, these cars are just so great to see. The brass era cars are just,
These are not just Fords. These are
No, they're
a lot
all-
of other manufacturers
this is what-
represented here.
yeah, back in that era, you'd see
Let's
all
stop
kinds of
here.
ones.
This is an exceedingly important car.
Okay.
While here, Henry Ford produced a number of different models before the culmination of the Model T.
Okay.
And on this side of the room, we have what are called some of the alphabet cars that he produced here at the plant. And on the other side of the room, we have some of the competition
Right.
being produced here in the neighborhood and in the city of Detroit. This is an example of the first model that Henry Ford produced. It's a 1903 Model A.
Wow.
They produced several thousand of these vehicles, and they were all produced in 1903 on Mack Avenue,
This is a Mack Avenue car.
which is a little plant that he just rented
Oh,
from
okay.
their carpenter shop.
Wow.
1904, they came out here and purchased 3 acres and built the Piquette plant.
Wow.
He then began to produce additional automobiles. This is the next one that was produced. He actually produced a B, but before he did that, he produced this Model C.
Wow.
So this is the 1907 Model C.
Wow.
This car is still really not a modern automobile because the engine is under the seat.
Oh,
It
really?
cranks from the side, and this is a so-called French hood. It's actually a dummy hood. It contains a gasoline tank and a water tank.
Wow.
So it's not fully a modern automobile yet, but it was a major advance in terms of horsepower, reliability, and capacity and so forth. So he was making progress.
Yes.
I know steering is still on the right at this point.
Steering's on the
That's
right.
correct.
Yeah.
It was variable and still on the right in this
So
case.
now,
Now we're going to go down here to a very, very important car historically.
okay.
This is the 1906 Model N.
Model N.
Yes, Henry Ford had from the very beginning this idea that he wanted to produce a simple, reliable, inexpensive automobile for the masses.
Right.
It was a radical idea at the time because most people in the industry were making great profits producing large luxury automobiles for the well-to-do.
Right.
So why change a winning game?
Sure.
So it was an uphill fight with his shareholders at the time to build the kind of car that he envisioned. And eventually he drove the other shareholders out and took control of his own company, and then he's able to make the kind of cars he wanted.
Well, Jerry, it had to be a complete change. I mean, Joe and I we talked about this. Everyone in the industry was looking at only one place for the market for cars. No one even thought of when they want to build more glamorous and more feature-laden cars. No one, Henry Ford was thinking in the total opposite direction.
That's right.
A basic car that everybody could afford and drive was totally different from anything they were thinking of. So they must have thought he was off his rocker.
Many people did.
So this was this Model N. This was one of his first attempts. I noticed it's got the crank start.
Right.
And was this built actually here in the Piquette plant?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
And it's very important historically because this is really the prototype of the Model T.
Okay.
It's his proof of concept automobile. He produced this car. It's simple, light, relatively inexpensive, reliable, pretty easy to drive and maintain. So it's moving in the Model T direction. They sold like hotcakes. He set the world's record in car production, producing over 100 of these a day.
Wow.
They couldn't fulfill all the orders. There was such demand.
Station build.
And so that proved two things. It proved, first of all, that there was a tremendous demand in the market.
Okay.
So he had gauged the market correctly
Yeah.
in aiming toward the masses, the common man. And secondly, he had a good design that was moving toward that development. So at this point, he produced a few more models of this, gussing it up like the Model R over there. But then he quickly moved to produce the Model T. So we're now going to go upstairs to the third floor and see where the Model T was actually created.
That'd be great. Folks, why don't you come on back? We'll join Jerry Mitchell upstairs at the Piquette plant right after this. Now, before we go upstairs, look what we spotted, some really cool cars. This was Henry Ford's competition. Jerry, why don't you tell us a little bit about these?
Okay, it's a great automobile.
Oh, man, it's beautiful, Joe.
The Ford Piquette Avenue plant has multiple automotive history. It's very rich. It was Ford Motor originally,
Right.
but in 1911, the Studebaker Corporation purchased the entire factory facility from Henry Ford
Okay.
and began producing Studebaker automobiles here.
Wow.
And this is a fine example of an early Studebaker. You see it's a different concept than Henry Ford. It's long, large, and luxurious.
Wow.
And there was a market for that type of automobile.
So was this car built at the Piquette plant, you believe?
Not this one, it's a little later.
But he built cars of this size and quality, with the Studebaker company was actually using this building to build models like this here in Detroit.
That's correct.
Wow.
And what would something like this sell for?
You know, I don't know.
It's let me tell you.
A lot more than Model T.
When you look at a
I'll tell
Model
you
T and you look at this coach,
Yes,
wow.
definitely.
It's something else. Now, Jerry, I noticed down here you've got a Dodge.
Yes, we do.
Now, didn't Ford have a real distinct relationship with the Dodge brothers?
Absolutely. They were founding partners of the Ford Motor Company.
Without the Dodges, I mean,
that.
they
Major supplier.
yeah, they had a lot of the powertrain suppliers. Here's the Dodge brothers motor car. Look at this.
That's right. The Dodge brothers with Henry Ford from very early on.
Okay.
He chose them to make the engines and other powertrain and so forth.
Wow. This is a 1915.
And initially he couldn't afford to pay the bills, and so he offered them stock in exchange, and so they
Okay.
became shareholders.
Okay, that's how they
That
became.
turned out to be a tremendously beneficial arrangement for everybody.
Dodge brothers,
Yeah.
they did very well.
So they were with him all through the Piquette era into early Highland Park. And in 1914-15, the Dodge brothers started their own company.
Right.
And this is an early Dodge product.
So Mr. Ford then decided he was going to build his own engines and powertrains, and the Dodges had made enough money where they could start their own car company.
That's correct.
so both people succeeded, which is just a good story of how when partners work together, even on an industry this big, you know, everybody wants to think they have a better mousetrap.
That's
and they're
right.
on the way. That's another great story in Detroit's history. But now, really, let's get upstairs to that third floor.
Okay. Let's go. Okay, now I'm going to take you to the actual room where the Model T was created.
So we're up here now. What? This is the third floor?
Yes.
And you're saying this was the room where, even though they're building other models, the Model T was developed in this one little spot of the building?
That's right. In 1907, Henry Ford ordered this area in the remote part of the building to be walled off.
Okay.
And he had a small hand-picked group of men who were allowed to work in here.
Oh,
and
okay.
they set about creating this revolutionary new automobile, the Model T.
So
Took
this,
about 9 months.
He didn't want anybody else in the plant knowing about what was going on back here?
Apparently not too much.
So just some of his his best engineers or his best draftsmen and mechanics were back here?
That's right.
So would Mr. Ford actually come down? Did he actually do hands-on engineering on this car?
Oh, definitely. He was hands-on with everything. Nothing happened without his input and approval. I'd like to sit over here in this rocking chair. This represents Henry Ford's mother's rocking chair.
Wow.
He had it in the room as for good luck. And Mr. Ford would sit here and he would make rough drawings on the blackboard, as you see there.
Uh-huh, yeah.
And then the draftsman would convert those into blueprints.
Okay.
And they would make the parts, and then by trial and error in some other ways.
So they're test fitting things, and
that's why they slowly built up this new car, the Model T. They started with the Model N. That's why you have large doors.
Right, okay.
They could roll a couple Model Ns in here, and they started modifying those.
Wow.
And over here we have a fantastic artifact. This is an actual Model T prototype engine from the Piquette plant.
Oh, you're kidding.
It's here in 1908. They started out with a Model N engine, and he began to change it, converting it to a Model T.
Wow.
Now you notice this shows it's got 2 blocks basically, 2 heads, 4 cylinders in each.
Mm-hmm.
Some other modifications.
Like spark plugs are that big.
Right.
The valves are exposed on the outside, the springs. Yeah.
So now you come down here and see the modifications.
Okay,
a major innovation was to cast the entire block in one piece.
One piece, no more 2 pieces.
And then you had a single head, fewer bolts, fewer assembly time.
Wow.
He also eliminated the oil pump, eliminated the fan. He actually combined the fan with the flywheel here.
Wow.
The idea was to reduce the number of parts, to
Yeah.
keep it simple, to reduce assembly time, to reduce cost,
Right.
to reduce maintenance.
Wow.
And he worked that theme over and over and over again until he perfected it.
Reliability was key to this.
Right.
With respect to this facility, why did Henry choose this location?
Because of the railroad tracks primarily. This is the heart of the Milwaukee Junction, where all the rail lines converge. And of course you needed a rail to bring in parts and things and also take away your product.
Right.
And it's still very active today in transporting automobiles.
So Mack Avenue plant was off of Jefferson, but here off of Woodward, he could get the workers could come in by streetcar?
Yes, from both Woodward and from Beaubien out here.
Wow, so he could get his parts and his cars in and out of here with rail.
Parts
and then he had
cars out.
the major thoroughfare with Woodward and Beaubien here. People could come in and leave work at a pretty good location, actually, I would think. And then the fact that he purpose-built this building for manufacturing automobiles, that was quite the thing. Now this looks like a really old truck that you're rolling on another, it looks like a cutaway, Jerry.
Yeah, it's a cutaway provided by one of our volunteers.
Wow, look at
It's
that.
a typical Model T engine.
Wow.
Here you see the magneto, which is internalized in the engine. That's a major advance.
Wow.
Now these are
Maybe-
20 horsepower?
Yes.
Wow. Folks, if you're actually looking at the inner workings of a Model T engine. This is phenomenal. Really cool. And this is here at the plant. Anybody can come and watch. Now here's the crank assembly. Okay. Now the oil pan.
Oil pan is now solid and made of aluminum
Oh, you're kidding me.
to be lightweight.
Oh, look at that.
That also was an innovation.
And this is a splash oiling system?
Yes, it is.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
Thermosiphoning for cooling, so you didn't need a water
So
pump,
simple.
and a splash system for oiling, so you didn't need an oil pump.
Wow.
Again, reducing the components.
Now how much horsepower would this engine make? Yeah, still around
This is
20?
20.
This is around
20
20
horsepower.
So his idea was to make something not only that get people moving around, but he needed something that wouldn't break down. Make the fewer parts, the fewer the parts, the less chance of something going wrong with them.
Correct.
And then keep redesigning it so that it's faster to put together, easier to repair, and more durable.
That's right.
Which is really the hallmark of the T. I mean, those things ran forever. What a cool, and this is on display for anybody to see.
Sure,
And come back
come
to
right
the
in.
secret room.
Now let's take a look at the
All right.
Model T as it was produced here at Piquette.
Okay, wow.
The birthplace of the Model T is where we are, and that's because the first 12,000 Model Ts were produced here. The first one left this building in October 1908, and the world changed forever.
That's for
It
sure.
was the beginning of a new stage in history. And this is a Piquette-built Model T. It's one of the first 12,000 produced.
Joe.
Most people think that Model Ts were always black.
Yes, that's true. They'll all say that.
But no, early on they were carmine red, rooster green, or French gray. Highland Park introduced with the moving assembly line the need for black paint because it was fast and inexpensive.
Wow. Beautiful car.
This is fancy. You know, this
Yes,
does
it is.
not look like a low-priced car. Looks like a very expensive car.
It cost $850, which is about a school teacher's salary for a year.
Wow.
Henry Ford was a farm boy. He knew about the rough roads, how difficult it was for farmers to get into town.
Right.
So he actually designed it for the rough roads of America. 98% of the roads were unimproved.
Right.
And so it is high off the ground. It is lightweight. It has 3-point suspension, so all the wheels can move in different directions because of the regular road surface. It has more than adequate power. It would go up to 40 miles an hour. It had good gas mileage. And you could fix it with basic tools.
Yeah.
And remember, most Americans still lived on the land at that time. We were still an agrarian society.
Sure.
And farmers were really handy guys who could fix anything.
Oh, that's true. Not only that, this in many ways, Jerry, well, this was the first SUV. You see, we've seen old black and white footage of Model Ts going over some roads I wouldn't take in my car today.
That's right. It's unbelievable.
It is unbelievable that what these things could traverse back in those rutty roads. In fact, there were so few improved roads that they would have to get through the mud and the rocks and everything with these cars.
That's right. Real challenge.
So that's why he developed a relationship with Firestone, because he was constantly developing things like tires, and he had to work on brakes and constantly looking at ways to make the T even. This is what a phenomenal. Look at it. I've never seen something this gorgeous. So you even have, now are these part of the Piquette T's club cars? Or are these?
Some of them belong to Piquette T members.
Wow. So a lot of these cars run and drive, Jerry.
Yes, they do.
Wow.
These are all different versions of the Model T.
Okay. Wow.
This is your most standard and most popular version.
Closed cab.
Now,
Yeah.
what was the first year for closed cab?
I should know that, but
Look
I don't.
at that. Wow, this is gorgeous.
Small door.
It's a little tiny door, very square, very upright. Jerry, it's got a little push-out ventilation glass.
Yep, very simple.
Wow, this is the
Among
mirror.
the first people to embrace the automobile were doctors.
Okay.
They saw the advantage of being able to see more patients, and then very quickly salespeople. So a small coupe like this was quite adequate for a salesperson
would
or a
imagine.
physician.
Amazing.
Joe, a beveled glass mirror.
Oh, gosh.
Isn't that beautiful?
Some of these things
All
are
brass.
aftermarket.
Okay, this is
Now,
beautiful.
do you know the last year they used brass, or when T's went out of brass?
Not
What's
for
that?
sure,
So
but
brass
around
radiators.
just
Wow.
before the moving assembly line, when they were starting to
1911.
reduce price. Yeah.
Another beautiful model here. Wow. So now, and then not only you have the cars here, Jerry, you know, I've got a lot of these little displays, postcards, Model T humor, everybody. Model T became just such a part of Americana.
Part of our folklore.
I mean, the life and Model T went together.
Exactly.
So I guess that's why you have so many wonderful things to see. People don't really realize what a major role this played in us being mobile as a society. It really changed the world.
Literally put America on wheels.
This is really cool. All right, well, let's go over here and find out else what we have. Come on, folks, let's follow along. Jerry, this is great.
Okay. Now in this room we feature different models of Model T.
Wow.
Henry Ford continued to improve the car all along, but primarily focusing on the mechanics.
Wow.
He wasn't particularly interested in styling and things like that. He was more interested in the
Of course, the
function.
Model T runabout in the 20s. We've seen that in Hollywood movies, and that's right, Joe. Come on. But the four-door sedan, this is beautiful.
That's the family car.
The family car, right? And get you out of the elements there, Jerry.
Nice,
That's
nice styling. to
That's
it.
you know.
It really does.
Now, was the design, was the styling done here in this building as well on the
Yes.
Model T? So
Everything.
the very basic body and engineering run right here in this building.
Absolutely.
Now, it looks like someone developed a trailer system, Jerry.
Yes, the Model T spawned many new adventures in American life, and one was to improve tourism, because suddenly people could get in a Model T and they could go to Birmingham or to Pontiac or Mount Clement and so forth.
Bring the trailer.
And then the camping craze started because you could get out into nature. The National Park System was coming into being about that time, and the Model T, more than anything else, stimulated tourism on the road.
Yeah, take the life on the road, and really camping really got a great start with that. We've got a
Absolutely.
couple of our other artifacts here too, Jerry. What are these?
These are early gasoline pumps.
Early gasoline pumps. Wow, doesn't look like my gas station today. Where do you put the credit card? I guess you can't pay at the pump here, eh?
Another feature of the Model T was that it would run on almost any grade of gasoline and also run on kerosene.
Right, right. Well, look, the key to any kind of new invention like this car was that the availability of fuel and the infrastructure being in place so that people could find it anywhere.
Absolutely.
Another key to the success. Just like exactly what we talked about, Joe.
Same thing.
All right, Jerry, we got a couple more minutes. Let's take us in here.
Okay.
I've never seen anything like that. What happened to the wheels?
Okay, in this room we have a lot of examples of how the Model T was modified.
All right.
People were very ingenious back then, and they took the basic Model T chassis, which was very, very flexible, and they just adapted it to whatever their needs were. This is a snowmobile.
A snowmobile. That's
Over
right.
here is a tractor. You could buy this tractor
Model T.
kit.
Look at the tractor wheels, Joe.
Convert your Model T to a tractor for the week.
That would go anywhere.
Right.
Wow. A little sports car here.
Then for the young swells, they could buy this faultless Ford. This is for the fraternity boys who could afford something
Oh
like
yeah,
this.
painted it screaming yellow. And of course, we not only stake trucks and pickup trucks, but a dump truck?
Right. But if you're an ordinary kid, you would produce a hot rod like this.
That's right.
You just strip it down and
That's right. Take all the parts
augment
out.
the engine a bit to get a little more power.
High speed.
Yeah.
And of course, the things the wagons, the paddy wagons, the haulers, the minibuses.
That's right.
Jerry, this has been
hotel hacks.
Vegetables or whatever.
Canopy Express trucks. Boy, this is what, I mean, when you talk about looking at an American history book, this is what fills our minds and eyes.
It's all here.
Jerry, this was really a phenomenal tour. I'm afraid we're already out of time. I really want to thank you, Jerry, for taking us up here.
My pleasure.
Folks, Jerry Mitchell, you've just got to come down and see this wonderful world that he's recreated to show us our heritage. We're going to come right back and we'll talk to Nancy Darga about how you can experience this for yourself right after this. Welcome back to Cars in Context. I'm your host, John Clor. I hope you've enjoyed our little tour of the Piquette plant today. Joe, this has been a fabulous little walk through history,
really
hasn't it been? And to see this place, like the original paint on the walls, the original electrical, I mean, this is just like a walk through time, a time capsule. And for people that want to take a walk through time, we have Nancy Darga. Nancy's the executive director here at the Piquette plant. And Nancy, there are people that want to share this, and they've seen something now on television. They want to come up for themselves. What's the best way to arrange a tour or a visit or something like that with the Piquette folks?
Well, I'll tell you, people from all over the world make a pilgrimage here, and we welcome everybody who's within driving distance. We're open Wednesday through Sunday, and we're open from 10 to 4 o'clock Wednesday through Friday.
Wow.
Saturday, we open up a little bit early at 9 o'clock until 4 o'clock. And then Sunday, it's a little later because of church services,
Sure.
and that is from 12 o'clock until 4 o'clock. And you can also have private tours here.
That would be cool.
You can we have the most amazing weddings and events here. You just could not imagine. We have all kinds of school groups that come here, and we have all kinds of training and seminar programs that are held here. Because where else could you get to be inspired? Yeah.
So Nancy, is there a phone number they can call for more information?
There sure is. You can go to our website, which is tplex.org, or you can call us, and that would be at 313-872-8759.
Nancy, we sure enjoyed our time today. Thank you so much. Joe Babiasz, as usual,
My
a
pleasure,
wonderful
John.
time down here.
It's been a great day.
Folks, if you don't make this part of your stay, you're not a Detroiter until you've come to the Piquette plant. Make sure you put that on your list. Thanks for joining us here at Cars in Context. Remember that knowledge is power, and I'm your host, John Clor. Thanks for watching.